Welcome to Freshly Forever, a podcast that gives you fascinating insights week after week. Here's your host, Vi Kumar.
My guest today is Divya Nori. She is an internationally recognized scientific researcher, youth change maker, and founder of Safer with STEM, an organization that works towards gun violence prevention by applying science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. As a senior in one of the high schools here in the southern part of the United States, her research projects have received numerous honors, including first place by the American Psychological Association among pre-collegiate projects worldwide, grand awards from the International Georgia Science and Engineering Fairs, and recognition from Congresswoman Lucy McBath here in Georgia, United States. She is passionate about creating novel solutions to public health problems through scientific research and community leadership, and by leveraging her strengths in biochemistry and neurobiology, she strives to effect change through innovation. It's my pleasure to welcome Divya to the show.
Happy to be here.
Fantastic. So, to get things rolling here, Divya, can you tell us how your life was in elementary school? And was it just fun with friends, or were you strongly academically focused and kind of like pursuing stuff since that time?
Yeah, so I'd say I had a pretty well-rounded, fun childhood. Some of my favorite memories are creating little businesses with friends. So my friends and I would sell bookmarks we created or different baked treats. But I was academically focused as well. My favorite subject in elementary school was math. So I'd say I was interested in STEM from a pretty young age, but my childhood was also pretty fun.
Wonderful. So when you were under 10, as much as you can remember, what do you think you enjoyed doing the most?
One thing I really enjoyed doing was writing. My mom kept all of my old journals that I used to write in as a kid, and I wrote everything from like creative pieces to just what I was doing that day. And my mom told me, I would carry those journals around everywhere, and I go back and read some of those pieces and cringe, but they're pretty funny, and I still enjoy writing.
Oh, I'm sure. I don't think it's fun for you guys when you go back and look at it, but for us as parents to reminisce on those, I think it just is so special. It means a lot. So when did you develop this inclination for STEM? I know the school systems in the area where you are have something called the Talented and Gifted program. So were you part of any of that, or was it something else that was a motivating factor in your focusing on STEM?
I was in the Talented and Gifted programs, and those definitely helped create my interest in STEM. But I think mostly it was the science days that we had in elementary school. I remember in first grade, my teacher had 2 bowls of water, and she had mixed salt in one of the bowls, and she dropped an egg in both of them, and the egg obviously floated in the one with salt because of density. And so that kind of inspired my first science fair project in first grade, where I took these colored sugar crystals, mixed it in water, and observed whether the color of the sugar would change the color of the water. And so that was basically inspired by something I saw at school. And since then, I've done science fair projects pretty much every year.
Oh, excellent. And that's a great start. It's very interesting to hear about that as well. You have received several awards and recognitions in scientific research. Which one meant the most to you, Divya?
I think they all mean a lot, but one that sticks out to me is in May of 2019, I was really lucky in that I got to attend the International Science and Engineering Fair in Phoenix, Arizona. And specifically, I got to talk to the American Psychological Association, and they gave me first place. They awarded me a first place special award. And the reason that this one really means a lot is because a lot of the time I talk to people in the STEM areas, so people who are familiar with science and technology, but talking to people from the American Psychological Association was more about the applications of my research and where the actual, I guess the psychology is where my research is applied in the business application of it. So getting buy-in from people who would actually use the tool rather than just knowing the theory behind it was interesting.
Okay, so as I see it, so the application side of it and getting to kind of interact, so to speak, with almost like the end user population was something
Yes.
that you enjoyed. Um,
Yes.
so, what motivated you to focus on eliminating gun violence? I know that's a topic that's just so dominant in, like across the world, if you will. And very specifically here in the United States, we see a lot of it. And I know you have done some excellent work on that. So, what was that motivation behind getting started with it?
I think the biggest motivation was the Parkland shooting, which occurred during my freshman year. That was my first introduction to kind of how immeasurable the scope of gun violence is in America.
Mm-hmm.
Right after the Parkland shooting is when I started to get involved with March for Our Lives. And I saw that, just 3 months after the Parkland shooting, the Santa Fe High School shooting occurred. So that kind of got me thinking about how we needed immediate solutions rather than, although the traditional political process is really important, the rate at which gun violence was occurring and just the sheer number of deaths that were occurring, we needed more immediate solutions.
Mm-hmm. So, freshman year of high school was when you really got very specifically motivated into doing it. But do you remember? I know it's very unfortunate. One thing after another followed, like the Santa Fe incident after the Parkland. All that was very horrific. But do you remember anything from your younger years that also happened as far as gun violence, like the Sandy Hook Elementary School incident?
Yes, so Sandy Hook was my first time ever hearing about a school shooting.
Mm-hmm.
But I think at the time it was much more abstract to me. It was really sad and it scared me, but I didn't understand. I was in 4th grade, so I don't think I understood what a school shooting truly was. So Parkland is the thing that I think actually inspired me to do something.
Okay. So you heard about it, but the ramifications of it and what actually one could do about it, you probably at that time didn't have much clues as to how you could help the situation, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So how then did you conceptualize what you wanted to do toward this cause? I know the political side has tried to do so much. They talk about it, and then ultimately there's not much of action, or there hasn't been anything concrete that has evolved. But how did you decide to adopt a different route here?
Yes. So first I tried to think of different signs that we could detect early, which may which may point to potential violence in the future. And I came up with 2 things. The first was signs of glorification of violence or violent sentiments.
Mm-hmm.
And the second was extreme aggression. So I tried to break those up into 2 different pieces. And now I've tackled both, but at the time I focused on the first one, which was glorification of violence. And I tried to think about how we could identify that in a non-invasive, real-time way.
Mm-hmm. So, what perhaps would be a taboo topic, you chose that and you decided to turn that into a positive thing as far as how you could transform the world using that factor of, though, the glorification aspect of it. So, that's something fantastic. But if you were to explain in layman terms about the wonderful work you have done on that front, what would you say about that project, Divya?
Sure. So, as some of you may have heard, A lot of the time before a mass shooting occurs, if you go back and look at the perpetrator's social media, you'll see certain signs. For example, the Parkland shooter posted on Instagram a post that was pretty indicated some violent sentiments.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to create a tool that could score messages sent, outgoing text messages, or messages posted on social media, and score them and detect concerning patterns such as glorification of violence.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, the algorithm I designed looks at a overall phrase, breaks it up into words,
Mm-hmm.
and each word is assigned a number. And higher numbers are more concerning,
Mm-hmm.
and lower negative numbers are not concerning. And you may think of those as a word like happy would have a negative number attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
Those numbers are all added together, all of the numbers in a phrase. And when you add it together, you get a total score. And we can draw some cool conclusions with that total score. For example, is this very concerning? Is this a little bit concerning, but not that much? Or is this not concerning at all?
Mm-hmm.
And so analyzing data to come up with those numbers and detect whether there is violent sentiment in a certain message is essentially what my tool does.
That is something phenomenal. What exactly, if we were to just go a little bit deeper, what exactly is the tool that helps you do all this? Is it like computer based? What is it like? I'm sure, there's something involved there.
Yes, so the tool is a mobile app. It's called iSense, and currently it's in the prototype stage, but it tracks, it securely monitors outgoing text messages, scores each one, and if it's concerning, a linked account will receive an alert.
Mm-hmm.
So currently, I'm thoroughly testing iSense in many different conditions. It's currently on the Android side, but in the future, I would definitely build an iOS version and get both of those into the market.
Okay. So, was this all done single-handedly by you, and are you still, trying to do this all by yourself?
The work is largely independent, but I definitely have a ton of really helpful mentors. The first is my AP computer science teacher. She, her class is where I learned Java, and Java is the basis for mobile app development in Android. And I've also taken several online courses where I've learned Python and different behavioral science concepts that I needed to analyze the data I was working with. So definitely all of those are really helpful resources as I worked on the project.
Yeah, I'm glad you touched upon that. That was what I was trying to address earlier. So does Java and Python alone suffice, or to analyze the data, are you having to go into algorithm-based tools like R and such as well?
I've used R in the past, but for this project, Python sufficed. And for the app development side, it was purely Java and XML. So something that's pretty accessible for the vast majority of people.
Okay. So when do you think this can transition from a prototype version to like a fully licensed version?
I think the first step is speaking to a larger group of psychologists to ensure that the models, like one concern is to make sure that we aren't extrapolating too much. When you're indicating these serious concerns, you don't want to draw wrong conclusions.
Mm-hmm.
So the first step is to make sure the clinical side is validated. I've spoken to a few professionals from a local psychotherapy clinic, so we're working on that, but that's definitely the priority right now. But once those models are validated by clinical professionals, we can start more of the production side. So hopefully within a year or two, it can become a real solution.
Oh, this is definitely more and more engaging and interesting. So when you say the clinical side of it, does it mean they then evaluate the patient's mental health status, or what exactly? How do you go about that?
Yes. So essentially, the models I was referring to that detect the emotional sentiment are based upon DSM-5 guidelines. The DSM-5 criteria are clinical guidelines written to identify different mood disorders. So what the model is based on things like mental health and things like bipolar 1, manic episodes, major depressive disorder. It's all based on those clinical factors. So we're not drawing wrong conclusions, because one thing you don't want to detect is sarcasm. You don't want to detect just someone being aggressive in their day-to-day life, just a regular emotion. You want to preserve the emotional intensity, which is something that clinical guidelines are necessary for.
Oh, absolutely. I think you hit upon a very important aspect there. Also, does it mean you go off of, just for me to get a bit more understanding here and for the listeners to be clear as well? So is it just the mental health is evaluated based on whatever communication happens, or is it off of any database? Do you just go also search as far as their clinical history and such?
So currently it doesn't go off of any clinical history. So it's just tracking their outgoing text messages, their social media. And I was toying with the idea of maybe even scoring their search history, which is, I guess, something that they could control, or a trusted guardian could control what exactly is monitored. But there's no medical history that is attached to the app as of yet, but that's a really good idea that should be taken into account.
Okay, but then you probably also have to wrestle with privacy issues there, the HIPAA compliance and so on and so forth.
Yes.
But that's fascinating. Back in a moment with our guest on Fresh Leaf Forever. I know your passion with STEM extends further to applied computational biochemistry as well, and you develop tools to come up with a novel pesticide for a fungal crop pathogen. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. How about I have you talk about that in a nutshell here for the listeners?
Sure. So this project was inspired. This project was conducted with a team at the summer science program last summer. And it was inspired by world hunger. And one of the main causes of world hunger is crop devastation. Especially in developing countries, a large portion of crops are lost due to fungal crop pathogens. And these pathogens, one of the reasons they are deadly to crops is a specific enzyme that they have called CDC14. Mm-hmm. So if there's some way that we can disrupt the function of CDC14, it would kill the pathogen without harming the crop. Mm-hmm. So that's what me and my research team were investigating. We wanted to create a molecule that will disrupt the function of that enzyme without killing the plant. So we developed the fungicide.
So it's like trying to nip it in the bud as far as the problem, but still preserve the integrity of the crop, correct?
Yes. One of the great things about CDC14, the enzyme, is it's not present in any higher order plants, but it's present in fungi. So you can target the enzyme without harming the crop.
Okay. So has that been like a fully successful project? Has it been implemented, or is it still in the works?
That is still in the works. We tested a ton of different compounds that have been used in the past, and then we isolated one that works the best and then modified it and added certain compounds to make it even more effective. But as you may know, the drug design process is incredibly long and has a ton of restrictions and different things. So that's something that once you design it, you need to go through a lot of testing before it can be implemented.
Yeah, the regulatory process then takes over, and definitely that's long.
Yes.
Do you plan to go back to that project, or was it just something that you focused on for that summer?
I think that project specifically is probably just for that summer. It was something that I did specifically as part of that program at Purdue University. But similar projects that have to do with drug design are definitely something I want to do in the future.
Awesome. As far as bioengineering, you did some remarkable work there as well. It's amazing how much you've done, Divya, and I just, it's hard for me sometimes to even comprehend, where you find the time to be, able to
Thank
do
you.
all of this, and that's commendable. So was that another of your solo projects?
That was a project that I did at the Georgia Governor's Honors Program during the summer before my junior year. So me and my research partner, who was another biology major at the Governor's Honors Program, worked on this project. We essentially developed 4 different biochemical tests that when you interpret the results of those 4 tests, you can rapidly detect a staph infection in the respiratory tract. And we optimized those reactions and then integrated them into a 3D printed device for ease of use in developing countries.
Oh, that's fantastic. So that is something that has been implemented, as I understand.
Yes. So we have all the reactions and the device, which has sensors which can interpret the results of those reactions and tell you whether you have a staph infection almost instantaneously in comparison to the 48 hours it currently takes.
Oh, okay. So is this being used all over the world, or is it just something here that has been done in the States?
Currently just pretty locally, because again, all of this stuff is takes a long time to test to make sure the efficacy is high. So currently it's pretty local, but that is definitely something that I want to pursue in the future and make sure it's used all over the world.
Oh, fabulous. You have done some publications, presented at conferences, and you've been a TEDx speaker as well most recently. Amidst all this, you kept up with another artistic skill, and looks like you enjoy playing the piano as well.
Yes, playing the piano is definitely a stress reliever for me. I love performing different places, playing fun songs, and I also really enjoy creative writing too.
Fantastic. So how do you set goals for yourself, plan your time, do school, manage everything? You have a whole lot going on.
Yeah, it's definitely difficult at times, but I really enjoy making to-do lists. Usually I break up my lists into what I need to do that day, what I should do that day, and what I'd like to do that day. And I make sure I get the first 2 columns done. And if I get something in the last column done, then that's great as well. So that's how I make sure that I get everything that needs to get done kept up with.
That's a great tip. And I guess the last one then becomes a bonus. And so it adds to your happiness if you manage to get the last column accomplished as well, correct?
Yes.
Okay. How about a challenge that you can recall in your journey?
Throughout my freshman year, I worked really hard on a project on vision disorders, how we can predict them early. I remember being really excited for the state science fair, but I ended up not doing as well as I hoped, and I was pretty disappointed. After getting my judges' comments back, I realized that a lot of them said, "Hey, your project was great, but you didn't communicate it well." That's when I realized the importance of being able to explain research and translating your conclusions into concrete tools for the real world. I applied this constructive criticism in 10th grade, And I presented at the state science fair knowing that I had learned so much from the entire process. Qualifying for the International Science Fair was just the cherry on top.
I'm glad you really were able to learn from that experience, Divya. So what about a funny moment that you can think of?
I was in first grade. My teacher was reading a book to our class, and I happened to have already read the book. I had a doctor's appointment and had to go home early for that. But I really didn't want to miss the best parts of the book. So as I was packing my stuff up, I decided to tell my entire class how the story ends.
Wow.
I remember my teacher just started laughing and called me the Spill the Beanster for spoiling the book for everyone. And for the rest of the year, she would playfully call me Spill the Beanster. That moment definitely makes me laugh looking back on it.
That's definitely funny and interesting, Divya. I think you having achieved so much, this question then becomes important. So, who motivated you in your life to do so much, especially in the area of STEM? Was it from any family member, or who influenced you in your life the most?
Yeah, so I don't have any like older siblings or cousins. I'm the oldest of all of my siblings and cousins. But within my family, someone that really motivates me is my grandma. She at a time in 1960s India when I guess for women to do higher education wasn't as common. She got a PhD in math. So she really inspires me as someone who wants to get a PhD myself. And yeah, she's someone that inspires me to work hard.
Oh, that's great. I think definitely genetically, you seem to have it in there as well. And this just makes me want to correlate with whatever I watched on the Today Show this morning on TV. There's a 90-year-old lady that went back to school and finished her degree, and she had to give up under pressing circumstances because of her husband's ill health, that she couldn't graduate at that time when she was young, and she went back to school and did it, and she's 90 years old. And
wow.
it's just amazing how seniors and people much older can do fantastic things. And definitely I understand how much that means to you. So what do you hope to do in the future? I guess it's a 30,000 feet bird's eye overview question as far as I'm concerned, but given all that you do, but what is it that you want to focus on, and what would you like to see get accomplished?
Currently, I want to go into academia as a biochemistry researcher. I'm sure my interests will change, but as of right now, I really want to go into drug design, drug development, and hopefully enable personalized medicine. Last summer, I learned that at a guest speaker seminar that I attended, I learned that due to overrepresentation of white males in cancer clinical trials, minorities disproportionately experience adverse and kind of ineffective treatment when it comes to cancer. So I really want to develop cancer treatment that is tailored to your genome so that regardless of your race and gender, treatment is equitable and hopefully the outcomes for cancer are better. So that's where I want to go, where I think I want to go in the future, but I don't know if my interests will change.
That's always a possibility. Maybe you'll figure something even more interesting, but this itself is something for a normal person, it seems like out of the ballpark, effort, but that's great. So I guess, your goal is to do some predictive analysis, or rather ensure some predictability in treatment for people. So everyone receives kind of the same outcome, so to speak, when they receive a certain drug. Is that like a fair assessment?
I think more so developing the drug itself. So for the actual treatment you receive can be tailored to your race, your gender, your molecular profile. So I think I want to target the treatment itself rather than the predictive capability.
Okay, wonderful. Are there like a few places that you have in mind that you want to pursue all your aspirations further?
I'm really not sure like where I want to go yet. Most of my decisions are, in late March, but places I'm really interested in are like Duke, Vanderbilt, Yale. Those are my top choices.
I don't blame you at all. I think you have a fantastic list right there. So what's your advice, Divya, to your peers that are listening and to aspiring youth?
One piece of advice is I think sometimes there may be pressure to pick a field and stick with it. Figure out what your interests are and go with it. I think don't be afraid to explore everything that you're interested in. And if your interests evolve, that's great too. If you asked me in middle school what I wanted to do, I probably would have told you something in computer science or engineering. And I've completely changed in the more natural sciences direction. So if you find your interests evolving or have a lot of different interests, explore all of them, and you don't have to know exactly what you want to do.
That's a fantastic answer. If I may add, what is your advice to people that are skeptical about STEM, and especially girls in STEM? Any kid, any parent, society in general, what is your advice there?
I think often STEM is thought of as a very dry or boring field. And I want to say that's not the case at all. STEM is incredibly creative. The problem solving that you do in STEM it can be compared to the painting a portrait or, playing the piano. It's incredibly creative. And I think girls especially will enjoy that creativity aspect. And I encourage any girl who's interested in STEM to get into it, because I guarantee you it's not dry or boring as sometimes you may perceive it is.
And based on what you have come to realize, do you think STEM, the science, technology, engineering, math field here is any different vastly from what the global scenario offers? I know you probably would have already thought about your study abroad options when you're in college and whatnot. So as far as the global audience and the global scenario, is there something you would like to touch upon?
I mostly have focused my research on more domestic. I think the US has some incredible opportunities, but I have looked at Japan for they are a leader in the robotics technology area. Germany is a leader in the drug development area. So I think as far as study abroad, going to those places would be really cool. And, just with technology nowadays, I think it doesn't really matter where you are. If you have a laptop, you can do a science research project just from, using Python, publicly available data. So I think that's one great thing about modern day is it doesn't matter your location, you can engage with STEM.
And you pointed out pretty clear there. The open source platforms come in handy, and we have all got so used to living in a virtual world thanks to 2020.
Yes.
And so I guess that's a good piece of advice there. And I wish you the very best, Divya, in your future endeavors. And please always come back here to give our audience an update on whatever else you have going on from time to time. And I look forward to having you back on Fresh Leaf Forever. Have a fantastic one.
Thank you so much.
As always, before I sign off, folks, let me remind you to subscribe and follow the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or Google. And the website is www.freshleafforever.com. That's one word. And make sure to follow the podcast on Instagram at freshleafforever and on Twitter at freshleafforev1. I enjoy reading your feedback and appreciate the follow. Let's make week after week a fresh leaf forever on the podcast. See you then.